All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of Mr. Pisto Plays. Welcome to 2022. We have a top 5 Standard Brawl Commanders from Innistrad Crimson Vow. Format's been out for a while. These are my favorite commanders and a few cards that I think should go in each deck. And something for you to think about when you're building these 5 commanders. They may not be the most powerful commanders, but they are very much fun to play. They're in no real particular order except the last one, which in my opinion is my favorite of all the commanders that have come out for the Standard Brawl format in Innistrad Crimson Vow. So we're going to get started with the first card that I have here. We have Olivia, Crimson Bride. You can run this as Vampire Tribal, or you can run it as Reanimator. I'm probably going to be running it as Reanimator, and I put a few cards together to give you some examples of things that I would definitely put in the deck. We have Anj, Maid of Dishonor. This kind of represents the whole blood token theme that is running within Crimson Vow, so being able to discard cards for 1 mana and then drawing cards using the blood tokens is a very powerful thing. They also represents the legendary vampire creatures. Florian Voldaren Scion is another one of those, good card draw card. And also with Olivia, her stipulation is when you don't control a legendary vampire, exile this creature. These are both legendary vampires, and there are a few more other legendary vampires that you can use that I think are pretty powerful, and it helps with Olivia's ability. Then we have, there's only a few cards that reanimate creatures, put them from your graveyard onto the battlefield. Edgar's Awakening is one of those new ones, playing alongside blood tokens and being able to discard this and pay 1 black to return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, or from the graveyard to your hand when you discard it, rather than doing its 5 mana to return a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gives you some flexibility there. If you need to, you can use it as the 1 black mana, or you can use it as the 5 mana to return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And we have a couple of good reanimator spells here with Dread Feast Demon and Goldspan Dragon. These are both very powerful cards that you can return from your graveyard. Goldspan Dragon's a little easier to cast straight out, and they both give you immense amount of value. And the last card I'm going to talk about for Olivia Crimson Bride is more of a general red card with a Braid. I think a Braid is a very powerful instant and sorcery, or instant card that has come back to us with Crimson Vow. Being able to deal 3 damage to a creature for 2 mana is pretty much standard for this amount of mana, but also being able to destroy an artifact gives you a lot of flexibility. So when you're building Olivia Crimson Vow or Crimson Bride, vampires like Anj, Maid of Dishonor, and Florian Voldaren Scion are great cards to include, along with some cards that bring back from your graveyard like Dread Feast Demon and Goldspan Dragon. So that's my first one. On to our next commander, which is Henrika Domnathi. Flying vampire for 4 mana. It's a 1/3. It gives you some flexibility. You could make this control card, or you can make it an aggro card. I like to play it more on the aggro side of things, because when you flip it, flying Death Touch Lifelink a 3/4, and you can make your Death Touchers, Lifelinkers, and flying creatures a little bit bigger by paying 3 mana. So cards like Blood Vial Purveyor is a very powerful card at 4 mana for a 5/6. The mana value to power and toughness you get is really good. The downside is your opponents get blood tokens, so they can start filtering through their deck, but then when you attack, you kind of force them to use their mana to do that, and then you might be able to get something through a counter spell, because when you attack with it, it gets bigger for each blood token your opponent controls. We have a couple of premium removal spells. We have a new one that is brought back with Crimson Vow with Hero's Downfall. For 3 mana, destroying a creature or a planeswalker is like murder on steroids, and being an uncommon is kind of cool. And then Old Faithful Blood Chief's Thirst. I think this card is great because of the flexibility and being able to kill usually a creature early game, and then being able to snipe off anything in the late game makes it very powerful. We have a new commander in Sorin the Mirthless. Could also be a commander for this deck. but it is, I think, better in the 99. You can make a Vampire Nighthawk without the death touch, and you can look at the top card, you get to draw it, and then you deal damage to yourself equal to CMC. And if you can get to the -7, it's probably gonna win you the game. Null Priest of Oblivion kind of fits with this deck and the deck we previously looked at with Olivia, being able to be an efficient 2-1 attacker with Menace and Lifelink, but also late game. When you top deck this late, it's not a dead card because you get to return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield for paying an extra 4 mana. So the flexibility there is very powerful. And then the last card I wanted to make sure I mentioned within these decks is the Meat Hook Massacre. It's just a fantastic card. People all over the internet are going, oh, it's too big, it's too good, it's too good, it's too good. But it is a card, and I think it is maybe too good. I don't know. What's your opinion? What do you think about Meat Hook Massacre? Comment in the comments below. Like, subscribe, notify too, so you can get to see more of my content when it comes out. Being able to gain life when your opponents die, and dealing damage to you, or opposite. When a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain a life, so it keeps you in grindy games, and it can help you gain some reach at the end. So with Henrika, or how do you pronounce it? Henrika Domnathi, I think it's a fun mono black commander. I like playing it on the more aggressive side, but you can definitely build a mono black control deck around it and you'll do just fine. The next one, we have Katilda, Dawnhart, Martyr, and Katilda's Rising Dawn. So it's cool to have an enchantment slash spirit based commander in the standard format, and this one is very powerful. You get to play it from your graveyard if you let it go to your graveyard, or you could just keep on recasting it as Katilda. It has the flexibility there to choose what you want to do with it. We have Faithbound Judge as a really just valuable, or a value card. Being a 3-mana 4/4, comes down pretty early, and then if it dies, you can use Sinner's Judgment as a cool alternate win condition for your deck, and I think it fits the decks really good. We have another new card with Hallowed Haunting, giving all your enchantments vigilance and flying. All your creatures vigilance and flying if you get to 7 or more enchantments. We're playing Katilda, hopefully we can get there. But it also helps fuel Katilda and makes Katilda bigger. Every time you cast one of those enchantment spells, you get a Spirit Cleric. So it kind of doubles up what you get when you cast a enchantment card. We have Borrowed Time, one of the really good enchantment-based removal spells in the deck, exiling a non-land permanent when it enters the battlefield, and then when it leaves, they get it back, but it's still a very high value card. We have an old card in Felidar Retreat. Is just a really good enchantment value engine, making 2/2 cat beast creature tokens and also putting 1/1 counters on each of your creatures. You're behind, you make creatures. You're ahead, you can pump your stuff. It's just really good value. Guardian of the Faith can help you save all your creatures from a board wipe, because you're probably going to have a decent amount of creatures if we're playing with Katilda and we get into the creature heavy spirit side of a deck. So this being able to phase out all your creatures, so the board wipe happens, and then when your turn comes back, all your creatures come back into play. It's a very, very powerful effect. And finally, I put in this one, Sparring Regimen. I like this because there are times, or there are ways to build a deck where Katilda is kind of like a Voltron deal in Commander. So when you're attacking, you're putting 1/1 counters on Katilda and growing Katilda. There was also the Wedding Invitation, which is a very similar style of card, which pumps your whole team. So if you're looking at a more gold wide strategy, that might be the card you want to put in this Sparring Regimen's place, but I think I really like the Sparring Regiment. All right, 3 down. We're into my top 2. These are my 2 most favorite commanders that I've built and played with out of this format thus far. The next one on my list is Halana and Alena Partners. Basically, this is a stand-in if you're tired of Tolivar and you want to play werewolves. You play Halana and Alena Partners because you don't need the werewolf synergy. You could put a werewolf package within your deck, but you really don't need to do the werewolves. But with Crimson Vow, we got some really, really powerful wolf and werewolf creatures, so it kind of makes sense, and the deck in a way builds itself around the werewolf theme and synergy. Volatile Arsonist, Cemetery Prowler, and Averbrook Caretaker are all cards that are very powerful in what they do, and they attack really good, they protect really good, and if you can flip the Averbrook Caretaker, the fact that it has hexproof in a format of all singleton, can win you the game very, very quickly. So I think Halana Partners is very good, and you can also play pump spells. So if you want to beef up Halana and Alena, make their power bigger, you can put more 1/1 counters on your creatures. So things like Massive Might I really like, because it also, if you put a bunch of 1/1 counters on creatures and they're just chumping, putting something in blocking with a 1/1 on your 10/10, you can hit it with Massive Might, and now all of a sudden you have trample. So I think Halana and Alena is very fun. I think it's the second most fun commander to play with in the Standard Brawl format right now with the Crimson Vow cards. So I think it's, yeah, like I said, really fun. Werewolves, you don't have to go werewolves, but I think werewolves are the best. And last but not least, my favorite commander in this format is Geralf, Visionary Stitcher. This card is just, I think, pure fun. Zombies you control have flying, so you could build it zombie tribal, although there really isn't enough in blue for zombie tribal, but there are lots of cards in blue that have very large toughnesses. So Geralf almost has to, it's like a removal magnet. It sucks up the removal. They have to kill it first before you start generating big, beefy zombies that fly. One of those cards that's really fun, that is a really cool synergy, is Charix the Raging Isle. It's a 4-mana 0/17, so if the cards all align and Magical Christmas Lands somehow happens, you can make a 17/17 flyer and probably win the game with that. Charix in and of itself can just win the game if you activate its abilities enough times, and I think it's a really fun way to use Geralf Visionary Stitcher. Another cool card to go with it is Dragon Turtle. It's a 3-mana 3/5. It has flash, so you can flash it in, tap your opponent's creature to make it not untap during its next untap step. Their end step, you use Geralf, sacrifice the turtle, all of a sudden you have a 5/5 flying zombie right away. And then we have cards like Mind Flare that you cast, you steal their creature, and then you either use their creature for a bit, and then when they go to remove the Mind Flare, you use Geralf to destroy their commander or their creature that you've taken with Mind Flare, and then Mind Flare can become a 3/3 flying zombie if you needed to. Another new card that I think should be a staple if you're playing blue is Wash Away. Being able to counter a spell that wasn't cast from its owner's hand for 1 blue mana means you can counter any of the commanders in the format because they don't cast them from their hands. So I think it's just it's a great counter spell that should be played in any blue deck that can run it. We have an old favorite of mine, which is Raven Form, only if you're playing mono blue. All the other colors have ways to deal with artifacts. Blue has bounce spells, but if you're wanting to just flat out get rid of an artifact, or in this case a creature as well, and give them a 1/1, Raven Form is great for that. And then the final card that I'm going to talk about in this video is Thirst for Discovery. Draw 3 cards. Drawing 3 cards is a lot of cards, and discarding 2 cards unless you discard a basic land card. So early game, this might be a little bit of a you're digging for land, so discarding land might be tough. But late game, you cast this, you discard one of those lands you don't have, and all of a sudden you have 3 new cards that are hopefully gonna help you win the game. So we have Geralf Visionary Stitcher as my favorite commander in this format. In the comments below, let me know, what do you think What are your favorite commanders from Crimson Vow, and how have you built them? There are lots of commanders that I haven't really touched yet, as just life gets in the way. So let me know what you think are your top 5, or even just your favorite Innistrad Crimson Vow Standard Brawl Commander. Like, subscribe, notify. From Mr. Pisto to you, Happy New Year. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Take care. Bye for now.